Welcome to Mic Drop, the podcast where relevancy is irrelevant and we don't give a shit about your feelings. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's both an honor and pleasure to welcome my next guest to the podcast. He is a former police officer for 6.5 years in the city of Tucson, Arizona. He's the founder of the Tatum Report. He's a professional speaker and has a YouTube channel called the Officer Tatum channel, which has 1.84 million subscribers. You know him as Joe the Policeman from the What's Going Down episode of That's My Mama. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Brandon Tatum.
What's going on?
Yeah, I appreciate
having me, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. That's the third time I've used that in an intro, but I thought this of all interviews, it's the most appropriate. What's the thing, if there is a thing, that you miss most about being a cop?
I have to say the adrenaline rush. I mean, every single day on duty was just an adrenaline rush. Every day, you know, going to call the calls, just being able to knock the calls off the board was enough of adrenaline. But those code 3 runs, and, you know, chasing people and stuff, that was a very fun part, and it's hard to replicate that. My life is sort of boring outside of policing.
I know it. Coming from the military, I can certainly relate. There's just nothing quite like that. What's the most embarrassing thing that happened to you as a cop?
Well, nobody knows about it. You know, I know about it, and if they ever pull the video, they'll find out. Man, I pissed my pants while I was a cop. I mean, full on, dude. I mean, I had to go change my uniform, and what happened was I was working out at the time a lot, and I was drinking a lot of water. You know, trying to drink about a gallon a day, and man, I had to go to the restroom real bad, and I was going to the substation from another call. I was beelining. There was nothing that's going to stop me. And you know how you have to go bad? I was at that point already. Yeah. And then there was a missing juvenile that was out on the loose. I think she's like 13 years old. And I see her on the corner, and I say, I can't just drive by this missing child. I got to do something. So I try to get some people up on the radio. Nobody would respond. Everybody's busy on the call. So I put the kid in the car, and, you know, it's all this paperwork and processing you have to do. You can't just put a young girl in the car with you and drive her to the substation. So I had to get on the radio, get the sergeant, and we get to the substation, man, and I'm doing the ants in the pants dance, man. And we at the holding cell at the substation, and it's so bad, dude. I couldn't even lock her in the cell. I literally threw her in the cell, didn't even lock the door. I had to run to the cell next to it. And I peed my pants. It, you know, soaked into my pants. Man. I end up, you know, finally getting it out of there, and I'm peeing all over the floor and, trying to get my thing out of there. And it was horrible, man. And the funny thing is right after I peed on everything, and I happened to have leg tights on, like compression pants on underneath my duty pants. So it kind of soaked into the pants, so it wasn't very obvious on the outside. And as soon as this is going down, I grab some napkins and I'm wiping up the floor. The girl is still on the other side. I ain't even locked the door yet. And somebody walks in, and they have no idea what just happened. And I think I said something like, somebody must have spilled something in here, and I'm wiping it up. And they just walk on by, lock the door, and it was humiliating. And I finally got somebody to kind of watch it through the monitor so I can go and change my uniform. But nobody knows that this happened to me. But all of this is on video. So if they went back and pulled the video from the holding cell, they would see me peeing all over the floor and everything.
This was what, years ago, right?
Yeah, probably. It was probably 2016, maybe.
I mean, would they still have video from back then?
I don't know. I wouldn't think so. I don't think so. And if they did, I mean, it would be almost impossible to find it. They may still archive it from that long ago, because you got to think we have people in these holding cells. And if somebody ever come back and say I was raped in a cell or something like that, we always should have the ability to come and extract that video. We logged them in and everything, so it'll all be tracked.
Yeah. So that's the first time you've told that story?
I told it probably to my wife and maybe one other person, but publicly, nobody's heard that story. Awesome. I did a video on my YouTube channel a long time ago, but it got like 3,000 views, man.
Well, hopefully, that'll be the tagline for this thumbnail, I guess. Brandon Tatum pisses himself. What's the most accurate racial stereotype for both blacks and whites from your experience?
Man, dang, there's a lot of.
Like
I know a lot of black
way,
ones.
I guess.
I think that punctuality is a stereotype. Black people are not very punctual, and I'm a living example of that. And every black person I know, I tell you what, I had a birthday party at my house, and I invited one of my friends, and that dude showed up an hour and 40 minutes after the party started. I mean, everybody was going home, and he showed up at the end, and I'm like, bro, you the only brother that then showed up here late like this. So I think that's a pretty accurate stereotype. White people can't dance.
I can cut it up. What are you talking about?
It's you and probably two other people. But I sometimes, when I was in college, all my white friends on the team, man, we'll put some music on in the locker room because I played football in college. And man, they were just so uncoordinated. It was, I was like, dude, y'all got 3 left feet. How is this possible? And most of the black guys were dancing, and they can at least get a little rhythm going. But of course, I know a lot of white people that can dance too. But I think those are 2 stereotypes that is pretty accurate.
Accurate. I know, like, especially when you see some of the older college coaches, like these old white guys trying to dance, and you're just like, dude, that makes me want to throw up. Like, I'm embarrassed for you. That shit is terrible. Man.
Oh yeah, especially when they trying to vibe with the players.
Yeah, like it's just, man, it's like
new hip hop dance, and the coaches are just looking super awkward.
Yeah, I mean, it just like, Jesus, man, you're trying way too hard. What is your morning routine on a typical day where you're in town, not traveling?
I'm embarrassed about my morning routine because I think it's not really a good example for young entrepreneurs to be structured. But normally, man, I stay up all night. For some reason, I can't sleep at night. I think it was because of policing and just my mind started going, because I worked the night shift most of my career. And like, I come alive at night, man. So, and when the wife is asleep and the baby's asleep, I have time to focus and think, and everything is quiet, and I just go down the rabbit hole. So I normally wake up pretty late, and I probably wake up around 8 or 9 o'clock. And first thing I do is I get on my phone. I check my YouTube channel, I check my e-commerce store, I check all of my emails. And I kind of, before I get out of bed, I scroll through topics that I think I want to talk about for the day. Just kind of brief myself on the news of the day. And then obviously I get up, brush my teeth, and I go make videos. And that's pretty much what I do. Or I do interviews and stuff during the morning time.
Yeah. Do you don't work out or anything right away, or eat or any of that?
Nah, I don't. I normally don't eat in the morning as soon as I wake up. I may just have a glass of water to get the body started. I haven't been working out lately. I used to get on my bike, and I used to ride my bike about 20 to 30 miles every morning, but I haven't been riding, man. I gained a lot of weight because I've been so busy, and that's no excuse. I've just been lazy, not working out, and I've been busy.
Sure.
So working out hasn't been something I do early in the morning, but I think I need to.
Yeah. Are you originally from Arizona?
I'm originally from Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh, no shit. Right here in this stomping ground. We're in Dallas right now. But what was growing up like?
It was diverse, man. It was very interesting. My mom and dad were split up. My mom was, she didn't date the most, I would say reasonable individuals. I mean, she had a few good dudes in there, here and there, but some of the guys she dated was hardcore, gangsters. So we had a little exposure to that side. My dad was a firefighter. He ended up retiring as the fire chief in Waco, Texas, and he retired the first time from Fort Worth, Texas, as a battalion chief. But anyway, so my dad had that kind of lifestyle. Mama had this lifestyle. So we had, an opportunity to see both sides. I got arrested at 8 years old for smoking marijuana with my cousins who were all, impoverished. I wouldn't say completely illiterate, but, not graduating high school wasn't rare. So we had a very diverse background, and also, my mom used to, because she used to make sure we had everything we wanted. We had what we need, but she made sure we had everything we wanted. And, something that I've never told people, it's funny that I never brought this up. Me and my brother used to really be into like skating, and he used to be in the BMX, and I used to be in inline skating. I really thought I was going to be a professional X Games skater. And so when I was younger, my mom would buy us these expensive rollerblades. I think they're like $300 back then.
Yeah.
And we used to go to the skate park and, and have fun and do stuff like that. So my background was a little bit of that, a little bit of a white boy and a little bit of hood rat, so it really made me who I am today.
Man, that's a crazy parallel because strangely enough, I don't know that I've ever even talked about this actually, but I was the exact same way. I mean, not so much on the hood rat side, but I used to skate like a motherfucker though, but rollerblades, like trick skating and like, there was a college campus, the University of Northern Iowa was not far from where we grew up, which there's just tons of good places to skate around there. And so like in warm weather, we'd go there on weekends. In the summer, we'd go there pretty much every night. And same thing, like I had this really expensive pair of rollerblades that my parents, bought, and I used the shit out of them. But I wasn't to the point where I was convinced I was going to be in the X Games or anything. But I was definitely that kind of kid where like that was a big deal to me, which isn't super common. That's a trip.
Do you remember the skates you had?
Yeah, they were the rollerblade brand. God, what were they called? They were one of the first rollerblade brands that actually, or models that had like grind plates and they were like made for trick skating. I don't remember the model name. I can picture them in my head, but my older brother and I both got the same pair, and I mean we rode the shit out of them.
I can't remember which ones I had, but they were expensive. Like I think $300, and we used to grind. We used to do the quarter pipes and stuff. And the reason that I was really athletic, right? I mean, I could jump really high, so I could do a 540 just on the ground. I could jump up and do a 540. I do a 720 off a little ramp that's probably like a foot, 2 feet in the air. But I was terrified of the quarter pipes and stuff. Like I wasn't really risky. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't go down and jump up and do a 360 backflip and go down, and then I broke my wrist at the skate park and I quit. You know what I'm saying?
But that half pipe shit is
like this. I said, I'm done with this stuff, man.
Yeah. I mean, that half pipe shit is another level of ballsy in my opinion. We never did any of that kind of stuff. It was all like street skating stuff, stairs and railings and shit that they model skate parks after parts of real society that kids would use to skate on. That was us, but that's a trip. That's funny. You played football growing up, I assume.
Yeah. After that, I got more serious about football, and I ended up being an All-American football player coming out of high school.
What position did you play in high school?
I played safety and running back.
Shit. Like Iron Man, both sides of the ball most of the time?
Yeah, most of the time I was on defense. Because I was, the top player in the nation. My coach didn't want me to hog it. He wanted the other players to get some shine. So I primarily played defense, and then I come in on the offense and score. I would score on defense too, So, but I wish that he'd have let me play both sides the way I wanted to. I think we probably would have won more games, but he was trying to be a socialist and then let everybody get a trophy. So it kind of thwarted my ambitions. I wanted to be a running back more than a safety, but
So successful high school career and recruited to. Did you go to the University of Arizona or where did you play?
I went to the University of Arizona. Coming out of high school, I was the top player in the nation.
Oh shit!
I was like top 78. I went to the U.S. Army All-American game. I played with people like Deshaun Jackson and Jonathan Stewart, who was a top running back for the Panthers. I mean, I can go down the list. Adamakin Sue played on our team.
Oh.
A lot of these NFL dudes you see right now, we all played in high school together. And so I had a scholarship everywhere, but University of Arizona was most attractive for me because Coach Stoops from Oklahoma had gotten a head coaching job there, and I thought it would be a great place for me to play.
Yeah. What was the biggest difference going from that jump up from high school to college, like caliber of player-wise, that was kind of the most surprising?
Well, it wasn't the caliber of player wasn't the surprising part, because on our high school team we had 9 D1 players.
Jesus.
And we had 4 All-Americans, including my brother was an All-American the year before me. Man. So we had a lot of dudes that were all D1 athlete type ability. So going to college wasn't a shock for me for athleticism. And out of all those guys, I wasn't even the fastest. I think I ran a 4.3 and a 40, and I was like 5th fastest dude on the team.
Yeah.
And so we had some burners, man. But going to college, the acclimation to like actual plays, because we went to a hood school, we were all athletic. We didn't even run no plays, you know, especially on defense. It was like we had two things: cover blue and cover red. Cover red was like a cover 4 concept that they never taught us how to actually do. And then blue was our base set, which we had 3 DBs and then, you know, 4 linebackers and 4 D linemen. So I was a single safety and I had like 120 some tackles. So going to college, man, it was crazy. We had all kind of plays and run gaps and switches and all kind of stuff. And I could not keep up with it. It was.
Would you say that was that the biggest kind of surprise, was how complicated the playbook was?
How complicated the playbook was and how crazy the coaches were. Like they were out of control, cussing you out and talking shit to you. Oh, they were out of control. At least at our university, they were out of control.
Yeah. Did that kind of stunt your desire to want to keep playing?
I think the effects of my experience at the University of Arizona did create an environment where I was like, man, I want nothing to do with this. Like, I'm done with this football thing. I just got burnt out, you know, being a great athlete and then watching your career dwindle away right before your eyes because coaches, you know, put you in a doghouse. That's a real thing. Like you get in bad with coaches, they'll never play you no matter how good you are. And being such an athlete and watching them just waste my career away, I was burnt out, man. By the time I was in the NFL draft in 2010, even though I didn't play much in college at all. And then after I didn't get drafted, Oakland Raiders promised they would draft me. I had a party and everything, man, and they passed on me, and it just broke me, man. I really loved football, but it opened me up to being like, I can't take no more of this. Like, I really need to do something else if these opportunities don't come soon.
Wow. Did you play safety in college or fullback?
Yep.
Safety.
I played safety.
Yeah. You seem big for a safety.
I'm bigger now. You know, I was considered a big safety at 6'2", 220.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder you got 120 fucking tackles.
Huh?
I said, no wonder you got 120 tackles.
I was in high school. I was a killer. I was knocking people unconscious and everything. But, I was a big safety, and you know, I would have been a first-round draft pick, I'm sure of, if I'd have played and got some adequate playing time, and they got a chance to see how athletic I was. And because I was so athletic, I was still in the draft. They almost drafted me. So
did you do the combine?
No, I wasn't invited to the NFL Combine. I did a pro day.
Oh, okay.
Where, you know, I didn't perform as well as I would like to. I didn't really have the training. And, you know, it was kind of like a downhill spiral after, you know, my senior year.
Yeah. So what, you know, waking up the next day after being broken from not having the Raiders not follow through, what then? What was that next day like? And what kind of drove you to make the decisions you made after that?
Yeah, so I was devastated, man. I was in disbelief. You know, I just thought that although my college career wasn't that good and it was such a tumultuous experience, that God was going to come through for me. And when he didn't, it was just, I didn't know where to go from there. My son's mom at the time, she was pregnant, so I had to make some grown man decisions. You know, football wasn't really panning out. So I said, you know what, I really need to look at other options because I'm going to be a father. And I can't be chasing football dreams and you know, not providing for my family. And so that's what led me to policing, because I had applied for everything in the city of Tucson. And policing, even though I really didn't grow up liking police, I didn't know nothing about police. I mean, that salary was good compared to all them other jobs and benefits. And so I applied, not even expecting them to ever call me back. And, they ended up calling me back, and I wasn't even ready for that. I really thought they were calling me because I committed a crime or something. But, you know, I did a ride along, and then the rest is history with policing.
Was the ride along an eye opener in any way for you? Like, did it dispel myths? Did it confirm any? What was kind of the takeaway from that?
The ride along changed my life. I mean, it was, and I say this, and it sounds corny, but for the first time in my life, I saw a real hero in Officer Sean Payne. I'll never forget Officer Sean Payne in 2011. It was maybe 2010 when he gave me the ride along. I mean, that dude was crazy, man. It was crazy to see what police actually do, and they do it every day. I mean, this dude, I only could do a half a shift with him because I had another job at Verizon Wireless, premium retailer, which ain't even a real Verizon. So, and I was making $8 an hour. I was minimum wage. I hated that job every day I woke up to go to it. But so I can only do a half a shift because I had to get to work. But we first call, we changed the old lady was on the side of the road, elderly lady. Let me be respectful. Was, you know, she was on the side of the road. Sean, get out. I get out. He helped her change a tire. I was like, this is a cakewalk. This policing stuff may not be as hard as I thought it was. The next call, dude, a suicidal person. He's actively cutting his wrist. We go code 3, and it's the first time I've driven code 3 with a police officer. I mean, we going 70, 80 miles per hour down a residential street, dude. I mean, dodging people, you know, pulling up at the light, flying through the light, skidding through the intersection. And I mean, dude, I almost had a heart attack just getting over there. And then we get there and they force entry, they kick the door in, and then they go in there and Officer Sean Payne was able to get the guy to drop the knife, and he ended up saving the kid's life and all this stuff. And I remember getting back in the car like, dude, I'm like, I'm spent just from the drive over here. I can't even think straight right now. I'm flustered. And I wasn't even a part of this. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I remember getting in the car and being like, hey, man, like, do you do this? Is this like an everyday thing for you? And he almost laughed at me. Like, yeah, I do this every day. What do you mean? And, dude, I was in complete shock. I was like, how can he endure this type of adrenaline rush?
Yeah.
I'm flustered, and he just got back in the car like nothing ever happened. Yeah. So that was a crazy eye-opening experience for me.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, there's a lot of parallels with, you know, the burnout rate and things that take place with military, police, first responders in general. Really anybody in that type of line of work that experiences that huge rush, you know, from your adrenals, like it does wear them out and kind of satiate them or make them overfire to a point where it does, like, it's fucking hard on you. I mean, I'm sure you experienced that in the time you were there, but what's the fastest you ever drove while you were a cop?
Were they top out at 155?
Yeah, we were at 140. So we didn't tap it out, but we were at 140. And I think the reason we didn't hit over that because we were in an older police car. You know, that thing was barely hanging on. We were in a high-speed pursuit, and you know, me and my FTO, he was driving at the time. I was in phase 3, which is like, you know, I don't know if you know about the phases, but there's 4 phases in field training, and you have to complete all 4 phases. The 4th phase, you graduate and you could become a solo police officer. But I was in phase 3, and you know, there was a dude that did a carjacking while we were in debriefing, ready to go home. He carjacked somebody. The air support unit was up. We had 5 officers following him, and so my FTO was like, "Man, we going home." Like, they got it. And then the fool decided in the high-speed chase, he decided to go right in front of the police station. So once we heard him coming down the Miracle Mile and, you know, Romero and all this stuff, he was coming towards the police station. My FTO was like, get in the car. And the funny thing is that we get in there, and our policy is only 2 patrol cars can chase at a time. We had 10 people chasing them, you know, and right when we open up, right when the gates open, this fool is passing by all 10 cars, and then the sergeant the commander gets on the radio and say, you know, spike strips authorized and pursuit authorized. And so we jump in. We're like 11th place. And at this point, our policy is that at a red light, we must come to a complete stop. Now, bad guys obviously don't follow that policy. They got on the frontage road. We jumped on the freeway. And so all our cops were stopping at every light on the frontage road. This guy is like 2 miles in front of everybody because he's going 80 miles per hour blowing through lights. We jumped on the freeway and we hit 140, and we ended up getting in front of him. We missed the spike strips the first time, and then we ended up pit maneuvering him down the road. And then, of course, you know, he met the asphalt in a very fashionable way. Yeah. And that was the end of it.
The former safety in you, I'm sure, played a beneficial role in your ability to go hands-on with people, huh?
It was tremendous. I mean, people were just blown away when they would run from me, and I'd catch them within seconds. And they would literally say, dude, you're the fastest police officer I've ever seen. I'm like, yeah, because I used to play football, you know. I used to run them down on the football field. So
that's awesome.
You out of shape criminals, it's a cakewalk for me.
That's classic. Was going through the academy from a physical standpoint, was that kind of a joke after being a college football player?
It was, but it wasn't, right? Because by the time I went through the academy, I was kind of falling out of shape from football. When you compare 1-to-1, I mean, the academy was less physically demanding as football. It was more mentally demanding. Like, I mean, they played these psychological. It's like in the military. It's paramilitary. They literally take you the first day. You sit in the classroom with your Class A on. I don't know if they call it Class A. It's a tie in a white shirt, and they have you set up, and they come in there, and somebody's really nice and welcome everybody, and then drill sergeant come in there, get in the crowd. And you know, I got a picture. It's funny. I should post it. A picture of my young self, first day to the academy. My freaking tie is this long, dude. I mean, I didn't know how to tie a tie. I'm sitting there like this at attention, and they just grilling me. And they know I'm like the football player, so they're just riding
Giving you a little
me,
extra.
making me drop and all this other stuff. And so it was a mental shock for me, too, because the psychological games they used to play with us, you know, they made us crawl in the mud, and then we had like a minute to go and change out of our Class A, muddy clothes, fold them, and then change. And they knew we would never accomplish it. So once we ran out late, they smoked us again. So, you know what I'm saying? I just didn't know. I thought they were serious, you know, but, you know, it's a whole mental game that they play with.
How long is the academy? For
Our
Tucson?
academy was 17 weeks. So our academy was pretty short compared to like the academy in Texas, like 6 months.
Yeah.
So.
But then with the 4 phases afterwards, I mean, the total time from you start the academy until you're by yourself out on patrol is about a year.
It's almost a year because you got 17 weeks in the academy, then you got 8 weeks in post basic, and then you got another 22 weeks in field training. Yeah. And so you pretty much at about a year, and you can be rephased too. Like, so if you don't go through field training and you get rephased in one of those phases because you're not competent enough, then you can be extended all the way out to 27 weeks. And if you don't make it past that, they fire you. Then after that, you're still on probation for another, year and a half. So, So it's a grueling, long process, and it's the most stressful thing I've ever done in my entire life was going through field training. That is the craziest, most stressful thing I've ever done.
Even more so than being by yourself out on patrol.
When you by yourself, when you make it to that point, it's like going to heaven. You like, thank God. There's because they brainwash you, and it's so strict, and they try to get you prepared. So when you're on your own, you don't make mistakes, and you're not out there, your officer safety is down and stuff like that. You get killed. So in field training, it's just so grueling, and you don't know what you're doing when you first get out there. I don't care how much academy you get. When you first get on the street, you got to make a real arrest. Somebody pull a gun on you. You got to be ready to go, and you don't know nothing about the investigation because you have never experienced it. And so there's a lot of learning, and then you got a guy there judging you. And then when you drive for the first time, because in phase 1, some FTOs let you drive. Most of them don't, because they like, okay, let me show you how to drive first before you get us killed. Yeah. But my FTO was like, no, get in the car and drive. And I remember there was a suspect that we were looking for, and he was going this way, and we were going that way. And I stopped at the light, and I'm waiting there. He go, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm stopping at the light. You are the police. Turn the lights on and do it and bust a U-turn. I was afraid to make a traffic violation. So it was a very interesting thing for me, very stressful. But when you get on your own, man, you can't wait to get on your own. You're like, thank God nobody's in the car nitpicking me every step of the way.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, so department to department, with there being such a wide variance of the way that different departments handle that process, it sounds like, at least with Tucson, that by the time you got to be by yourself, you felt like the training is pretty adequate to where it prepared you to be able to do that. Because some of them, that seems to be one of the hotbed topics, I think, for a lot of, whether it's anti-policing or the coined term, which I can't stand, reimagining policing. But just that there's not enough training to prepare some of these officers to be put in the positions that they are, and that's why they're making the mistakes. I'm curious, having been through all of that, do you feel like, at least with Tucson, that they adequately prepared you to be alone and in some of those situations?
Well, you can never prepare for real life and death situation. You can only do scenarios so many times before stuff hit the fan and you really can die, and other people are dying and people are bleeding out, and you got to do, you got to put the chest seal on and quick clotting and stuff like that. You can't teach that. You mean you can simulate a fake scenario with your friends that that's a lieutenant, and you're like whatever, but in real life it just hit the fan. It's real. Like it's game time, and they prepare you enough for you to then learn on your own and be capable in a reasonable manner. But you just can't. You still, when you get out of FTO, you kind of start over again. And I think that police officers don't really become efficient until like 5 years on the police department. It's just because it's so many different scenarios that you go through that you can't even plan for. Like, you can't plan for a decapitated person on the freeway when you put up on a call and a guy's head is rolling down the freeway. It's like you can't really plan for that. Like, what do you do? They didn't teach you this in the academy. Or you get a woman who's been, sexually assaulted and is, whatever the case may be. And you have to have that tough conversation with a real person. You got to ask her these questions. Did he penetrate or all these other things? And it's very uncomfortable. But you only get that through learning by being exposed to it. And the problem is that officers who are in like LA County, officers in Tucson and Phoenix, some of these major cities that have a lot of crime, you get so much exposure that when a shooting happens, more than likely you are capable. Some of these other places, they go through the academy and they are in these rural areas, or they're in these areas in pretty decent neighborhoods where they go 20 years and there's never been a shooting. And then they get into a shooting and they panic because they've never been exposed to that level of stress. The public have no idea about what that's like. I mean, they Monday morning quarterback till they're blue in the face, but it's nothing like what the body does. And being in the military, what your body will do under immense stress and fight or flight. Sometimes some of that stuff you can't control. Like your vision is different. It's a lot.
Yeah. So I guess one of the main questions that you hear in the media, and really on both sides of that kind of Monday morning quarterback or second guessing, is that what is kind of the answer, I guess, for the situations where you see things happen and they go horribly wrong. And I mean, I'm not naive to the fact that sometimes just bad things happen, and no matter how prepared you are, how well trained you are, sometimes like it's a split second judgment call, and you make one that maybe wasn't as good as another one you could have made. I mean, that happens, but there's also kind of a basic level of competency that I think sometimes is missing in some police departments, and I'm curious to get your take on what the answer is, if there is one. Is it training? Is it selection? Because I know, like, at least in SEAL training, it's called SEAL training, but it's really selection. The BUDS training, which is 6.5 months, has like an 85% attrition rate. So most guys that start out don't make it, but the nice thing with that is that the guys that do now once these guys check into SEAL teams, it's very easy to trust that those guys are solid dudes that you can trust, that are going to be there when you need them to be. From my perspective, and I've not been an active police officer, full time or anything, but it seems like maybe the selection criteria could be a little higher. That initial step in, so that you're not bringing in guys maybe that that are questionable. What's your take?
No, I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. Every police department is different, and some police departments are more strict than others. And I think that selection process is a problem because, you have a lot of affirmative action hires. You have people needing to hire more women. And you have, departments that are depleted and their attrition is so high that they need to get officers on the field, in the field, or they're going to be screwed. They're not going to have enough people to answer calls of service. So then they push people through. And we experiencing this right now. We're going to see a wave of bad police officers, in my opinion, because what happens when a lot of police officers leave and, through whatever means, they are in desperate need to hire and they can't get candidates. So what they do is they start to dumb down the qualifications. Oh, well, you can use marijuana within a year. Or, well, you don't have to make an 80 on the test. You can now make a 65. I saw this happen in Tucson. They were letting people make like 40s on the test. We had to make 80s on the test. And you had to make above 80 to be competitive if you were going to even get hired. So they begin to dumb down the qualifications, and they get a lot of these officers in there that may not be equipped. But they should do a better job. Like you said, it may not be as stringent as the SEAL team, because some, you know why, but some departments, you just pushing paper, you know what I'm saying? You're not, a killing machine. But I do think that they should make sure that they have the most qualified people. I would say this, I don't know what most of the police departments are doing, but it is very difficult to become a police department, at least in Tucson and some of these major police departments with the background investigation and, you know, the psychological evaluation, the polygraph, you know, and it's a 40-page document I had to fill out, plus another 3 or 4 months of them rigorously going through all of my contacts. I had to put the people I live next to. I had to go and find these people I live next to and put them on this list so they could call them as a reference. And, you know, we talked to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, you know, we went through the whole thing to make sure you're not crazy. However, there's always going to be people that slip through the cracks. I'll never forget this guy on the police department. He was squared away, ex-military. The dude was squared away, uniform press, boots shine every single day. He was married. He was the model guy. He made it through FTO. Some of my FTOs was his FTOs, and they passed him with flying colors. You will never expect, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, the dude is squared. And then he ended up raping some nasty prostitute on duty, you know, and then was dumb enough to put the condom that he used in the trash can at the booking place, where in the restroom where only officers can use. You had to get the key and only officers go in there. He didn't flush it down at all. He put it in the trash can. And we had, you know, a detection system where we have GPS on our computer. So they tracked his car, you know, and all this, and everybody was dumbfounded. Like, this guy raped somebody? Like, for what? And his wife was beautiful. He had a great family. And it's like, and some snagger-tooth, nasty bullet hole in the thigh prostitute that smell like fish and alcohol.
Fucking military guys every time.
Oh no, man, that dude was sick.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But it happens.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
No, for sure it does. I mean, you know, one of the questions that I wanted to ask was how do we as a society fix the kind of the PR nightmare that exists with police officers of it being such a difficult thing to get people to do it, and you know, getting kind of from a societal standpoint, you know, a level of respect that kind of the way that it used to be, because it seems like it's on a downtrend. But I honestly think, even though I understand that the selection sometimes gets bumped down because they're missing people, I think that's still the wrong answer, because it's the lower quality police officers that are going to further give police departments a bad name. And like, I'd rather have not enough guys than have the wrong fucking people in that line of work. I mean, I don't know if you saw that just here recently in California, they're allowing illegal immigrants to become fucking police officers in California. Like, you don't even need to be an American fucking citizen, and they're going to let you be a cop. Like, how fucking dumb is that? I mean, how do you not see how that could go horribly wrong?
It's this woke mentality. You know, everybody needs a trophy. Everybody deserves opportunity, and they scared to turn people down. You know, we in our police department, we were probably one of the best trained police departments in the entire country. However, we didn't have enough firearms qualification. The qualification wasn't strict enough, and also PT wasn't strict. We had officers that got on the department, and you had to pass the PT test, but you don't have to ever pass it again. And so they fat and sloppy. They can't jump over a fence. You get into a fight, they're out of breath. They can't run. They can't chase nobody. You know, they're just pointless. They're just feckless people that are putting us all in danger, because you know what? They can't fight. Yeah. So if they get into a tussle, they got to shoot somebody because they're gassed out. So, you know, I'm with you with that on 100%, you know, up front. And I think there should be no delineation between men and women. There should be one PT standard. If women can't do it, they shouldn't be on the job. Agreed. There should be one academic standard. If you can't do it and you're too dumb, then you can't be on the job, and that's it. What that will do is, that means they have to pay you more, because then you are more qualified people. But like some police departments, you don't have to have a GED. Yeah. And I'm not saying you're an idiot because you got a GED, but you don't have to pay a person with a GED that much money, which is, then you'll start attracting people that are probably not elite. I wish they would not be afraid to just call it what it is and say, look, you are not qualified. You are not built for this job. Yeah. And I think we'll see a lot less of these police fallouts that we see, which damage the relationship with the public. But I think that what we can do as a society to make this better is that, you know, keep supporting police that are doing the right thing and standing up for them when you know it to be right. And also, police departments need to have a PR firm, because I was a spokesperson at the Tucson Police Department, but there's a lot of things that we technically can't say and all this other stuff, and therefore we let the narrative grow, because we know that we shot this guy because he pulled a gun. We have the internal information to know that. we don't say anything because we don't want to interfere with the investigation. And therefore they run a narrative that the man was shot in the back 46 times and he was unarmed. And then we just let it grow. And then once it grows, people believe it. And then once the truth come out and they say police brutality is unchecked, it's like, well, y'all dummies don't know that he had a gun and it's on body-worn camera. You just listen to the narrative that was put out. So if they can kind of have some impartial firm that has pertinent information and they can at least, you know, kind of quell the fire initially, I think that that'll be a lot better of relations. Like Michael Brown, remember that whole Michael Brown thing? Hands up, don't shoot. The police knew that was false, and they knew that Michael Brown attacked the police officer for his gun because there was a shot that went off through the driver's side door of the police car. But they didn't say nothing for weeks.
Yeah,
and the narrative was built. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and it's refreshing to hear you say that. I mean, you know, and that's one of the questions I also had prepared is that there's a kind of a strange and difficult gray area of police and, you know, whether it's, you know, BLM as an organization and just kind of the movement or, you know, stigma associated with unarmed black men being shot by cops that, you know, is portrayed as something of, I mean, I've even heard people use the term genocide and ethnic cleansing and shit like that associated with it. And to me, I'm a big data guy. You know, to me, like, look at the numbers of anything, you know, and when you look at numbers and percentages, it's a very, very small, you know, portion. If you look at, you know, the population coupled with how many police officers there are, how many engagements there are, interactions there's millions of them, you know, and you boil it down to percentages, it's like it's less than an anomaly. You know, does it happen? Yes. Is it unacceptable when it does? Equally, yes. But to say that it's this like fucking pandemic level problem is disingenuous, and further than that, it's harmful, you know, because it really undercuts the police's already difficult job of what they're trying to accomplish. I'm curious, from your perspective, having grown up with, you know, as you put it, some hood rat aspects of childhood, also having been a police officer, what is your kind of perspective on BLM and, you know, unarmed black men being shot at disproportionate, you know, rates, and kind of what is your take on all that?
Yeah, I think they've been selling us bull crap for a very long time. When I was young, I hated the police because of lies and stupidity. I mean, that's just what it was. That's why I go so hard now, because after becoming a cop, I said, whoa, cop just pulling you over because you're black? We have no idea what color you are, even in the daytime. And we don't even care. We really running the plate and trying to figure out, are you going to kill me or not? Nobody cares about your race, because white people kill cops just as well as black people and Hispanics and women and whatever you do. Handicapped people who are disabled still shoot cops and stuff like that. So we don't care. And after being exposed to that and being around other cops, it's like, dang, I was kind of ignorant to this fact. Looking at the hard work that police officers do on a day-to-day basis and the stress they're under and how many lives we save. I mean, dude, we're the only thing, we're kind of keeping the stitching that keep the fabric of our country together. And, you know, I just think that knowing that we've been lied to is astronomically devastating to the community. And also, when you just look at the numbers, like you said, you're a numbers guy. When I go around the country and I speak about this and I survey people, you know, you got people in California. We did a man on the street thing in California, and we said, how many people do you think get shot by the police every year? You think it's about 5 to 10 people? I mean, unarmed.
Yeah.
5 to 10 black people unarmed every year? Or you think it's like more like 200 or 300? Or you think it's like 2,000 or 3,000? These fools, 2,000 or 3,000 easy in LA alone. And I'm like, y'all got to be the stupidest people in the world. In the entire country, there's about 14 unarmed black men that get shot every year. And you talk about justified, I would say 99% of those are justified uses of force that result in the death of a person. Yeah. And there's 40 million black people in this country. So you talk 40 million black people, and only 14 are killed unarmed, and 90% of that is justifiable uses of force. What are we even talking about at this point? Yeah. And we act like police are the biggest threat to African-American people when black people kill. Let me give you a number. And this is verified, fact-checked, whatever people want to call it, because I looked it up. More black people die at the hands of other black people within a 6-month period, any given year, within a 6-7 month period, than the entire recorded legacy of lynching for 68 years of lynching. Was like the 68-year lynching total. Now, there are some lynching totals that was not calculated, but according to the record that we have of lynchings in the United States of America over 68 years, it's like 3,400 lynchings of black men. There's about 6,000, 7,000 black men that are murdered every single year in this country. So if we're going to talk about, even that is not even on genocide level, because there's 40 million black people. You're talking about 7,000 people getting murdered out of 40 million. Obviously, heart disease is a genocide that we're experiencing. But even then, you should be arguing about how do we stop black people from killing each other, because that is like a disproportionate amount from police. And I'll just do this. Let's go a 10-year period. And this is what I tell people, and it's shocking to them. I said, just do a 10-year period. In 10 years, at average of 14 unarmed black men per year, you have 140 black men that have been murdered by police. 10-year period of black on black violence, you have about 70,000 black people that have been killed by other black people. Tell me which one is more concerning, 70,000 or 140? Come on. That's
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a staggering statistic. And so take, people like Al Sharpton as an example, right? Is it a guy like that who, platform-wise, position of authority, respect within the community, et cetera, is at a pretty high level. Why is there not more of that coming from him? Like, I mean, if the goal, if the goal is truly to protect young black men in this country, then why wouldn't a guy like that, who actually has the ability to do something, look at data and say, okay, here are the top 5 things that kill young black men in this country. Police is not on there. It's not even close to that. So, like, where is he at on that? And why isn't he talking about it?
It's race hustling, right? So there's financial gain in creating this facade, because they got to pay him to do the eulogies. They pay him to show up to do the press conferences. All these other attorneys, they're civil rights attorneys. They get paid massive amount when they get the city to pay out. Even though the city wasn't wrong, they settle with these people in court and they pay them hundreds of millions of dollars. And so that is advantageous for them to push that narrative. They don't want to tell the truth, because then they will be out of a job and people will be looking at them saying, Reverend, what have you done for us lately? You ain't done nothing. So it's I know people probably listen to me say that and they're like, oh, you just saying, but let's keep it real. Why isn't Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and them spending more time when you have a bullet hole in the head of a 14-year-old girl that got shot in a drive-by? Why aren't they in these communities saying, hey, this needs to stop? We're killing our own people. Yet they stand outside to talk about Tamir Rice, which was a justified use of force. Unfortunately, the kid died as a result. They talk about Philando Castile and some of these other people, which were justified uses of force. Unfortunately, they subsequently died. They spend more time talking about this. They even defend people that they know are guilty. You have a guy pull a gun on cops and they defending them. There's a guy in the stupid NFL, had the fool name. His name was Aaron something. I forget his name now. This fool did a drive-by shooting on Facebook Live. And the time of his death, he recorded on Facebook Live a high-speed pursuit where you could see him pull a gun out and shoot at the cops. And they did a whole vigil for him. Wow. You can go down the list, and Stevie Wonder can see that these people are not in it to pursue excellence in the black community. And as a result, how has the black community been progressing, these inner city communities? I'm not talking about in black people in general. These inner city communities, the places where we claim we need the most help. How are they doing lately? It has been on a decline since the 60s.
Yeah.
So
what do you think? Yeah. I guess it's still confusing to me. Like if I'm Al Sharpton, like even with the race hustling, I get that there's a financial motive from that standpoint, but it would seem like there would still be an incentive to fix the problems as well. Like, why can't you do both?
Because your money dry out, right? If you were a car manufacturer or a car mechanic, how do you keep your job, right?
It's like Big Pharma with keeping people sick.
Right. Big Pharma. Big Pharma is probably the easiest recognizable thing. It's like, no, they don't want to cure cancer. They rather treat you for cancer because it's a lifetime of a financial gain. They don't want to cure it. They don't want to eliminate it. They don't want COVID to go away. They don't want any of these things to happen because then they run out of employment. They don't want the black community to be flourishing and doing well because then people ain't gonna need you.
Yeah.
What are you preaching? The white man is gonna have to take. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they're doing. It's just like these anti-cop groups or whatever the case may be. There's a guy, he literally sickens me. And he's a nice guy off camera, but on camera, he's a former police officer. His channel is Police Brutality Matters. I mean, this guy literally is running out of content because there's not enough police brutality situations to even talk about. And the guy just mashes police. And even he's wrong about, I would say, 50, 60% of the stuff that he's posting. And if he were to change his message, he loses his whole identity. And so I think that it's an incentive for some of these people to be kind of the solution to the problem that they're facilitating.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, again, I think the big pharma parallel is pretty apt that way. From your perspective within the black community that way, what do you think the answer is, or what would your advice be, to people to try to get that shift? Because to me, it's a daunting task when there's those types of numbers of people, black on black, violence that way. Like, how do you stop that?
It's culture. A lot of it is culture. So the people who are leading, like Al Sharpton and some of these other people, and some of these athletes have a level of responsibility. These people that are thrusted into the limelight should be acting with the attitude and the personality and integrity that they want these young people to be acting in. If some of these celebrity type people and leaders will come out and say, pull your pants up, stop sagging your pants, show up and be professional, have a good first impression. We don't speak Ebonics in this country. If you want to get a good job and you want to be taken seriously, you need to learn and understand proper English and be able to articulate yourself, articulate your points and enunciate your words. If people in positions like NBA players and these movie stars were making a movement to get young people to position themselves to be successful in this country, to love this country, to understand the value that they add to this country, I think we will see a cultural change. And if these older, like I said, these people that are in positions of power and role models will say, fathers are important. So take care of your kids. Quit sleeping with women and running away from your responsibilities. Young women, quit sleeping with Tyrone, and he ain't about nothing. He ain't never had a job since you met him, and then you got 3 kids with him, and he nowhere to be found, and you sad. It's not the way we should be living our lives. It's a better way. And then also historically, what did black people used to do in the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s? We were not like we see black people today. The culture was not the same. It was hard work, dedication, and innovation, and being a part of this country. Martin Luther King and none of these black leaders wanted to secede from the Union. They wanted the Union to keep up with the principles in which it promised. And when we have leaders doing that, we have people being examples and stop making excuses and promoting thugs as martyrs, I think we'll see over the next 30 or 40 years, we'll see a cultural change. And then I feel like that the community, you'll see less murders. You'll see people, actually building their communities better. But until then, it's going downhill fast.
Well, so, I mean, you bring up a really good point that way, like especially with, there's obviously the Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons, but I think the LeBron James, the Colin Kaepernicks, the people that pop culture-wise are in a position to be very, very influential. Rappers, I would say, you could argue, one of the most influential for that aspect of society if they're drawing their inspiration from that. It's not a big surprise that things aren't going, as well as they could. Have you talked to, met, or ever reached out to Kaepernick? And I'm curious what your take on his path and journey has been.
I've never reached out to him. I think he's a complete coward, and I think he's brainwashed. But this money in what he's doing, so it is nothing I'm going to say that's going to have him turn down a $3-4 million contract with Nike or a Netflix deal where he's saying the NFL is comparable to slavery, and then now he's trying to play in the NFL. No amount of me talking to him is going to convince him that money ain't making sense. But I think that people like him are very dangerous. because they're illiterate. They are ill-informed, misinformed, uninformed. I don't know whatever the case may be, because they come out of their rear ends with all of these statistics that don't make any sense. And many of them can be the solution to the problem, but they don't do anything. I mean, just imagine if these NBA players signing $100 million contracts. Just say that 4 or 5 of them who grew up in the same city would just invest a little money in building up their city and creating opportunities instead of buying jets and y'all can fix the problem. It only take a few of y'all millionaires to create $1 billion worth of help in the community, and it's a tax write-off. But they don't want to do that. And I'm gonna say this: I know that they are influential, because when I was a young kid, my father wasn't the greatest influence when I was a kid. I didn't want to be like my dad, going to work every day and being a hardworking man with integrity. I want to be like Tupac. I want to be like Michael Jordan. I want to be like all of these people who had fame and fortune and were on the celebrity status. I want to be like them. So if they said smoking weed is cool, I want to be cool like them. Let me just give you one more example. Why do you see these players that are worth millions of dollars? Most of them go bankrupt, and they look like thugs, and they act like thugs. They got tattoos on their neck. They got gold teeth in their mouth. They sagging their pants, and they living like hood rats. And they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. It's because they never let that culture go. They never let that stuff go, and the culture is so influential in their lives that no matter how much money, fame, or fortune or wealth they get, they're going to always be connecting to the lowest common denominator. Yeah, and, it's very destructive.
That's a great point. And I think there's in hearing you kind of walk through that mentality, I think there's also a parallel in those guys too. There's an element of kind of kicking the victim can down the road on behalf of the race, so to speak. In those positions, LeBron being a pretty good example, Colin, same thing. LeBron, I think, is probably better because he's been so successful for so long, whereas Colin really wasn't. So you take a guy like LeBron, who's one of the best basketball players ever, and who's also extraordinarily influential and very active and influential on, say, Twitter as an example, and during the George Floyd stuff, or in support of Kaepernick, or a lot of these other things that that he's doing. I think that similarly kind of props up his brand, his street cred, his financial gain from all of this stuff. But it does beg the question, like, if these guys take Jay-Z, LeBron as two kind of influential in different industry examples, if both those guys turned over a new leaf and both said, okay, hey, from now on, like, this is the straight and narrow that we're going to try to project and influence and whatever, do you think that their popularity would tank?
No, I think that they probably feel that it would. I don't think it would. They would become more trendy. People would just want to follow their lead. I got Young Savage tattooed across my stomach, man. I used to have gold teeth in my mouth when I first went to college. They're heavily influential on the way you think. You see somebody like Russell Wilson too. Russell Wilson makes young men want to be successful and want to be smart and articulate and not a gangster. He's married to Sierra. So, young boys are like, I could be like him and be a straight and narrow guy and clean cut Carlton, like they would say from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and I can still get the hottest woman in the industry. Yeah. So if these young men will come out and set the tempo and be an example, all of the young brothers will begin to follow. The fact of the matter is that, LeBron James and them are being thrusted by society. And I'll say this, and what happens with Colin Kaepernick and a lot of these other players is that when they get rich, they feel bad for other black people. So instead of them feeling like, oh, I'm here now, let me help you rise, they feel like, I'm here now, how dare I left them behind, let me get on a level. Yeah. Let me act like I'm with the people. Let me talk about oppression and white supremacy. They're not experiencing it. LeBron James, white people are literally kissing his toenails when he go anywhere. He can't even go anywhere without getting mobbed by white people that love his dirty draws. I mean, even Colin Kaepernick and all these other people, like, they don't experience no racism. Oh, well, I'm afraid to walk out the house. I'm gonna get killed. LeBron James probably have never gotten a speeding ticket, and I bet he's been pulled over before. Yeah. They too busy fangirling him. So come on, man. I think it's the guilt that they feel, and I know how it feels. Right? I'm very successful, and some of my family members are impoverished. And it's not a good feeling to go back home and you know that you are doing really well and they're struggling, and you know you can only help them so much if they're not gonna help themselves. But it's a feeling where you like, I don't want to act like I'm better than you. I don't want to forget where I came from. But that's not the attitude we need to have. We need to say, let me bring you up to where we're at now, and understanding that where you at ain't where we supposed to be.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, I remember back when I was in the hood and I'm still from the hood. It's like, no, you're not from the hood. Get out of there and do better.
Yeah. Well, you just said something that I think, resonates a lot, is that, you can't help people that don't want to help themselves. And I think that's the key component. A lot of times in any regard, whether it's government, whether it's, cities where it's predominantly white, cities where it's predominantly black, what have you, is that when there's this investment into opportunity, is that only goes so far. And if it's not equaled to or met with the example being set, then I think it's a waste of money. And in most cases, it just gets burnt through. The same way you see, our government and military spending trillions of dollars in other countries, and it just gets wasted, and it's corrupt, and ultimately, does very little good that way. I think that, to your point, is that these guys who are in these positions have to set the example and say, instead of me just trying to give you stuff like it's, socialism, it's, I'm going to set the example and show you that there is a way out of it. There's a very common kind of theme that you see a lot of times, that speaks to it being more difficult being a black person in this country than it is a white person. I'm curious, do you find that to be true? Do you think that there's merit to that?
Well, I see the brainwashing, because I was brainwashed to believe that. I don't think it's any merits, because how would I know I'm not white? So, how am I going to say your life was easier than mine? I don't know what you did and that's not my experience either, because I know a lot of white people that had it way worse than me. Some of my police friends, they would tell me stories about their life, and I'm like, dang, bro, you had it way worse than I did. We had childhood friends growing up, Dustin and Derek, 2 white boys, and my mom used to give them our hand-me-down clothes. So I don't think I think it's racist to project, because of the color of your skin, that you have whatever experience that you claim you have. That's just because you black don't mean you grew up in poverty. Not every black person live in poverty and from the hood. You got black people that live in middle class, and also very wealthy black people. So, I think it's bullcrap, man. And it's a ploy for politicians and politics to divide us and get us to be at each other's throat. They got to find a reason to, separate us, because they can't say, 2 men like you and I get together, and although we have different skin colors, we have a lot of commonality. We can be together and be a strong force, but they can't have that. So they got to say, you know what? All that you went through, Brandon, the white guy over there, he had it way easier than you, just so you know. Yeah. And if he want to go up the ladder, he going to go higher than you because he white. Yeah. And then they wanted to create animus between you and I. And it's like, that's not necessarily true, man. I've had a cake life being a black man. I was the spokesperson of the Tucson Police Department with only 2 years on the police department, which had never happened before. Yeah. And I'm a black man, and the police department is primarily white and Hispanic. We had like 12 black people on the police department of like 1,000 officers. Like, come on, man. Like, I had a full scholarship to college. I didn't pay for a single dime. I used to go in there and get all the new books. I didn't even get the used books because I'm not paying for it. So I said, give me all the new books on their dime. They used to treat us like kings at the University of Arizona. So my personal experience has never been anything like that. And to be honest, white people have helped me in my life more than black people have, excluding my father. But, when I want something, or I'm striving to do better, and there's a lot of white people that come alongside you and say, man, I believe in you as a man. I believe in your mission. I want to help and support you. I ain't never gotten a situation where it's like white people don't even want to help me out. The black people the black people don't want to help me out. It's normally the white people that see good in you, and they're willing to help you get to the next level. Yeah. I'm not saying in all cases. Somebody gonna watch this and be like, Brandon said black people don't never help each other. It's like, with my experience, it's been a lot more white people that have been instrumental in helping me outside of my family than black people, by far. It's not even close. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome to hear you say that. I mean, one thing in particular is that I don't know what it's like to be you. To me, I find a frustrating irony in a comment such as like, well, you don't know what it's like to be a black man in America. It's like, yeah, because you hear that a lot, right? It's like, no, I don't. But newsflash, like, you don't know what it's like to be a white guy in America either.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so like if, you know, where the irony comes in, it's like, if you don't want me to assume shit about you, don't assume shit about me either, you know, because like I can tell you, I'll ask you, I mean, like there's parts of every major city, you know, Fort Worth where you grew up, Chicago, fucking Harlem, you name it, like me looking the way that I am. Do you think I could just walk through neighborhoods there and get left the fuck alone?
No, you got to be crazy. We never seen white people. If you do see them, you know, they the police or they crackheads, and they're not welcome. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people be looking at you crazy. Like, what's this white boy doing out here?
What are the two key components for canine success? That's effective training and proper nutrition. Fueled by Team Dog brings those two components to your family and best friend. The perfect nutritional balance that results in a higher mental acuity, energy, overall vitality, and even an improved appearance. Every product you will find in my company's store was born from the battlefield and not from the boardroom. Let my life's work help you become your dog's hero. Yeah, and so to me, it's like, you know, you hear a common complaint like, oh, you know, if I walk in an elevator, this old white lady clutches her purse or whatever. And it's like, dude, if I walk in parts of the country, I'm going to get my fucking head cut off. You know, it's like, so it does work both ways. I think both are equally shitty deals. And yeah, ideally in this country, like, I think everybody should be able to go wherever the fuck they want and be left alone. Like, to me, that is the way it ought to be. But I think when there's this perpetuated, you know, victim mentality on any side, whether it's, you know, class, race, sex, culture, you know, what have you, is that it just sets people up to basically make an excuse as to why they couldn't do something. And, you know, to me, like, if there's an ability for people to come here from another country that barely speak the language with fucking 30 cents in their pocket, and, you know, 20 years later, they have generational wealth and own several businesses. Like, if they can do that, anybody born here can do really whatever the fuck they want. Like, there's no shortage of opportunity. And lastly, I would say, like, I don't care who you are. You can always find somebody with a better deal. You can always find somebody with a worse deal, too. You know, I mean, I don't care what kind of upbringing you had. There's always people that you could say have it worse. But, you know, to me, I just think it's not seeing the forest for the trees and focusing on anybody else. It's like, just focus on the shit that you can control and maximize the opportunities, create opportunities, what have you, and take advantage of them instead of blaming people for your problems. I don't understand that mentality. But hearing you talk about kind of the incentive from some of the leaders, such as, you know, Jackson and Sharpton, you know, it certainly makes more sense. I just, you know, I don't know how I guess for anybody listening, how would you say, you know, this is what you can do as an individual to help get us from where we're at to where we need to be?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a great observation. I think that you hit the nail on the head, is that in life, no matter who you are, where you at, you get cards that are dealt to you. You got to play those cards to the best of your ability. That's it. You can't look at the next man and say, well, he got aces, you know, he got queens or whatever. You got the cards you got, and you got to play them. And your cards in America are better than anybody else's cards in anywhere else in the country. You got the best hand. His hand may be a little better than yours, but you still got the best hand. The poorest people in the United States of America are some of the wealthiest people in the world. The poor amongst us get free food, free health care, free housing. I mean, God dang. And they get free housing in the best country in the union. I mean, in the world. Yeah. So, I mean, dude, focus on yourself. Focus on what God has given you, and then pursue excellence and be the best version of yourself. Not everybody's going to be Jeff Bezos. Not everybody's going to be LeBron James. Be the best version of you, and then go out and worry about everybody else. The problem is that everybody want to be an activist for somebody else's life because it helps them divert from their own problems. The white man is doing it. No, bro. You and your wife don't even get along together. Why are you talking about Black Lives Matter and police officers when your kids out here smoking crack? Yeah. You need to worry about yourself and your family, get that right, and then be an example to help other people. And also, this is the point that I always make when I speak around the country. I say, quit being selfish. Your life is not about you. It's not just about you. The things that you go through, you ought to look at them as saying, as they are propelling points to make you better. The things that you go through that you may perceive as negative, they are for you to learn from and you to help somebody else to not go through or to learn from in their trial. You know, I've experienced a lot of adversity, but it ain't just for me. It's because I can now better help another young person through that adversity. I should be thankful that I have chinks in my armor. I should be thankful that, you know, I have, you know, trials that I've been through. And I know chinks in the armor may not be a good analogy, but I should be thankful that I've been through things because I'm now better equipped to help other people.
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
Yeah. Those are all great points. And, you know, I wish there were more, you know, prominent members of our society that are in even more positions of influence that thought that way and espouse the same points that you do. You know, one other thing I had written down, I know we're running over time, but racial slurs get brought up a lot as far as, you know, the impact that they have and, you know, certain people saying them versus not and what have you. I'm curious to get your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, I you know, I still feel weird if I hear a white person say the N-word, you know, but my feelings versus logic is the debating factor, right? I think words are just words. If somebody called me the N-word, I don't care. It's just like you calling me stupid. I'm not stupid and I'm not an N-word. So what are you actually saying? As long as you don't put your hands on me, I don't really care what you do. But people have gone up and beyond to be so offended and wussified in the sense of saying, because I'm black, I can call other black people the N-word 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I can turn that music up in my car and they going in all day. And if a white person riding down the street is rapping to a song and say the N-word, and I'm all offended. I'm ready to cry myself to sleep, and racism is live and well in the country. I think it's all stupid. People need to stop being cowards. It's just a word. And if a word hurts you that much, you're a coward. And I think that people should also be mindful of not, you know, using words against other people too. You know, like I don't call people racial slurs, you know, even though it don't bother me as much. I don't call people racial slurs because I have respect for other people. I may call them hypocrites. I may call them ignorant, stupid, because those are all, you know, terms to describe their behaviors. But I don't call people racial slurs because I don't want people to call me a racial slur. Yeah. But, you know, like I said, at the end of the day, people need to stop being soft and realize that these are words, and these words have no power unless you give it power.
Yeah, I think
2020. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I think that's the most significant point. Is I mean, they're all super valid and you know, refreshing, but is exactly that. Is that, you know, a word, especially. I mean, actions are a different story, but a word only has the amount of teeth that you allow it to have. You know, it's a totally different example, and it's a little apples to oranges, but I think the principle is the same. Is that one of the things that is very consistent in the SEAL teams when you first get into it, there's an onslaught of shit talking, right? Like the guys are, and it's probably similar in the police force. You guys fuck with each other nonstop, right? And I would bet, you know, I've had plenty of former teammates that have become cops, and I know there's a lot of similarities there, but like, if there's something where if your teammates or partners made fun of you of something and you allowed them to see that it bothered you, that the floodgate comes open to where like they just won't leave it alone now, you know. And so it's like the key to not getting fucked with is to be stoic and unflappable, right? And because if you don't give somebody the ability to piss you off, guess what? Then they're going to stop trying because it's a fruitless endeavor, you know. And so to me, like that simple principle is, well, there's two of them really. Is that one, if you don't want a word used, then don't use it. Like, to me, that's pretty common sense, right? Because there's no quicker way to build resentment and confusion than to do that. You know, if Jay-Z, as an example, uses, you know, racial slurs nonstop and then gets mad when somebody else does it, like whether you say it's cool because he's black or not, like the fact is that it's inconsistent, you know. And to me, that you know, reduces credibility no matter what you're talking about. You know, when you're inconsistent and hypocritical about something, it makes you look bad. I don't care what anybody says or what it is that you're talking about. And the second thing is that if you allow something to anger you, then you've lost. You know, take arguing with somebody. I mean, that's one of the most textbook principles of not losing an argument is don't let the other person piss you off, no matter what they say. Like if you never lose your temper, never raise your voice, it's impossible to have somebody own you in an argument that way, even if from the actual content of the argument is lopsided, it still gives you an ability to be able to engage with that person and not seem like you're an emotionally unstable child by being, pissed off at something that they said. But anyway, tons of good perspectives on your end, and it's been a really, really awesome and refreshing conversation. Where can people get a hold of you, and if they want to come have you speak, or kind of what are you up to now, and what's the biggest thing you want to kind of put out?
So if anybody, and again, man, thank you for your service. And this is one of the reasons why I think most men should serve, at least, because there's so many valuable lessons learned in the service, the love for country, obviously sacrificing for other people and learning these team building things that you will get in real life. If you can make it through boot camp, you can make it through your buddies just trash and talking you all day long, you can make it in the real world like it's nothing, so, but if people want to, reach out to me, follow me, whatever, theofficertatum.com, theofficertatum.com. You guys can go on there if you want to book me for stuff. If there's a booking tab on there, if you want to watch my podcast, my YouTube channel, all of the links, my book that I wrote, Beating Black and Blue, Being a Black Cop in America Under Siege. That book is on that website. So everything can be found there. And I appreciate you, brother, for having me on, man. I'd love to come back and continue this conversation with you.
Yeah, same here. Next time you're in Dallas, if you have the time, I'd love to have you in studio and keep going with it, because it's always good stuff. I'd like to send you a copy of my latest book called Unfuck America. I'd love to get your take on it. But
I like that, man. Yeah. Send it to me.
I will. Thanks again for taking the time out of your schedule. It's been great to get to know you and chat, and we look forward to having you back.
All right, my pleasure. Thank you, brother.
Yeah. For the listener, appreciate you tuning in. I hope you guys got something out of this combo. I know I sure did, and appreciate guys like Brandon coming on to give some well-rounded perspective, and just super fascinating and valuable for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you didn't, choke yourself. And until next time, this is Mike Dunn.